Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. This is part two of a two-part series on buying an FP Journe watch. On the first one, we looked at the what's called the Classique collection. These are probably the most popular of the FP Journe watches, and they're really sort of a combination of what used to be called the Souverain and Octa collections. So if you want to see those, you have to take a look at the first one. Now, the second one, we look at a lot wider range of collections that are available. Now, the first one I'm going to take a look at is called the LineSport. And the LineSport really sort of started off with a guy who was a runner and really liked FP Journe watches. He said the problem with them was that they were heavy. I have on my FP Journe Chronomet Souverain still, and it's got a nice heft to it. Of course, I'm not a runner, but if I were, that may make a big difference. But this guy wanted to have both a running watch, a lightweight running watch, but he also wanted one by FP Journe. So FP Journe made him one, and I think it was called the Octa something. I think the one of the original Octa sports watches, but it was a little one that was made of aluminum, including the I think even the gears were aluminum. Very light watch. It didn't go over very big otherwise, and I think that he moved from making them out of aluminum and moved to making them out of titanium. And this was a little more acceptable, I think, by sort of a wider range of people looking for a sports watch from FP Journe. Here are three right here. There's an automatic reserve titane, which is titanium. Now, this one was listed as 36,000 Swiss francs, which is about $36,000. Not much difference there. The second one is chronograph rattrapante titane, which is a titanium rattrapante. This one's 62,000, so you can see you're not getting much of a break price-wise on the LineSport watches, but they're certainly attractive to people who are more sports-minded. Finally, the Chronograph titane. This one is 54,020. All of these are fairly pricey, but if you look, I found one of the original type of ones of titanium, which was, I'm trying to think, just a regular automatic. One of the early ones he made, it was around 20,000. So if you're interested in this kind of watch, you can find them for a little better deal. Now, this next watch is really interesting. It was this one was made originally for women. It's a women's watch, and what FP Journe did, he said, well, he's going to make a quartz watch. Well, he designed his own quartz movement. He didn't go out and get a quartz movement somewhere and then plop it in one of his watches. He would never do that. And you can see the back of it there in the center down at the bottom. Now, he started with a smaller one, I think around 36 millimeters or something. I don't know why they just didn't do much. Now, it could have been the case was too small for the kind of things in the movement. If you look at 4 o'clock on those watches, you'll see a little hole, I guess. And what that is, it's a little weight that goes around and around like a rotor. And when the person stops using it for half an hour, it turns off the power. And so what the idea is that you can really save batteries and so forth. I think one of the original ones, he had a plan that the battery was going to last 50 years. I don't know if it's going to last that long or not, but an interesting idea. And then what happens, so it turns it off. Then when you wake up and you put the watch on, you twirl the little thing around, it cranks up again. And all of I've seen this happen. It's really cool. The hands, they'll go around and they'll turn out to be exactly the right time. So while the battery is turned off, there's enough charge there to keep the time in mind. Men had seen that and said, "Hey, why don't you make a man's version of this?" And he came out with the Élégante 48 millimeter, and this one is Titalai Alley T. I don't know. It's a registered name for FP Journe. I have it down as 11,500, and that may be off one way or the other because that was from the more standard version of this particular watch. But anyway, so for a very interesting and relatively speaking affordable FP Journe, the Élégante is one that you might want to consider. Now, this next group, I didn't even bother to look up the prices on these. These are called the jewelry edition, and you have two that I'm showing here. There were more than this. This is a tourbillon souverain with diamonds. Well, good grief! I mean, not only are the diamonds all over the watch, but they're all over the bracelet too. On the one on the left, and then the one on the right is the Vagabondage 3. And it's joaillerie, something like that. My French, pardon. But if you just got tons and tons of money you want to do something with, these guys will take care of it for you. Okay, now this next group is sort of interesting. This is called the Boutique Collection. And the Boutique Collection is taking some of the pretty standard watches they have and then having special editions. I know Art has a chronomet souverain in black with these gold letters around it. That's the boutique edition. I have another friend who has some of these other ones too. They're very nice. They tend to be a little more expensive depending on how popular they are, I guess. The one next to it is part of a group of watches called Black Label. And the Black Label watch is the same thing. They simply put a black label on different watches that are part of their general classique watches. This one is a Black Label Chronomet Optimum. This is a beautiful, beautiful watch. And they have, Chronomet Optimums are fairly pricey to begin with. And usually, if you're going to get one of these special editions, they usually charge a little more. Sometimes they're not that popular for some reason. One model or another isn't popular, and so you can pick those up for some pretty good buys if you look around and you're patient. Okay, the final one is what they call the limited series. This one is the Cenograph Souverain Anniversary, and it's 62,600 Swiss francs, and about $62,000 or $3,000, same thing. And what these are limited editions, special ones that, I don't know, they do it for, this one, particular one is for an anniversary. So if you get one of these, you probably have a pretty rare watch, relatively speaking. These watches are, for the most part, you have the core of it are the classique that we talked about in part one. What these are really sort of some variation of those. I think the LineSport is, most of those I think have the feel of something truly unique about each one. The same thing with the Élégante. But I think the other ones are sort of like customized versions of some of the more standard watches. But all of them they're all very yummy, all very expensive. One of the things I wanted to mention, before I took this watch in to have it serviced, it was stopping halfway through the charge on it. Why is it doing that? So I sent it in and for service. The same thing was happening on my Resonance. And I talked to a friend of mine who's a watchmaker who used to be a judge for the Grand Prix. And he said, what happens if you get up every morning, you wind your watch, he says the problem with that is if you don't let it run all the way out, it's not going to stretch out. It's going to stay in that. It's going to stay balled up to some extent. So you end up with this little balled up spring that's not going to stretch out all the way. So that's one of the things I've learned to do with a hand wound watch. I always let it go until it stops, then wind it up again. All right. there's a piece of information that you can tattoo on your wrist. So this is the second half of buying an FP Journe watch, and we looked at sort of the other ones that are in the collection rather than the ones that most people seem to know. And I'd like to get your feedback again. See what you have to say, see what you think, and any ideas you have. And until next week, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Outside, the Art and Science of Watch Collection.